Uh, Good morning. So last night, session 2 of Barrowmaze with Dragonslayer. Eloy, our MC Umbramancer. And we had Jose back as our Ranger Donald. We had Jorge back as Grimwolf the Paladin. Myself as Fex the Cyclopsian fighter. Cyclopean, I don't know, what do you call it? Cyclopsian, I think, is a reference to the book, right? If that's if there's such a thing, I don't know. And we had David join us last night as Dura. Oh no, I forget. Swift. Oh no, Dora Swift. Oh my God. Forgive me, David. I've forgotten her last name. Swift something. An assassin. So pretty cool. We've got a paladin, a ranger, and assassin in this group. Dell was unable to join us last night. And again, this is West March style. So it is drop in, drop out. And I will talk about that in my reflections here. And unfortunately, Todd couldn't make it. Todd just can't do Tuesday night. So anytime we do Tuesday night, it's gonna be difficult for Todd. The reality is Todd won't be able to join us if we do Tuesday nights. So hopefully we can do every other Wednesday at least and make sure we get Todd and Dell involved there if we can. So, but drop in, drop out, fantastic. David provided a very cool character. This will be the first time I've ever adventured in an actual game as a player with an assassin, a paladin, um, which is cool, which is cool. Okay, so we picked up literally where we left off in the last session. This is Barrowmaze, and we paused at the end of the first session, standing in the archway of the only exit out of the first floor room. And we picked up in order, marching with our torches in hand, trying to, with the light of the torch, to expose as much information as we could without making a decision. So again, what we wanted to know roughly how far it went east, and okay, we started noting doors and other hallways. The paladin barks eastward, man, on eastward, and Donald reminds us that the rumors tell us that the further east we go, the more deadly and dangerous things may be. My character, after passing the second hallway and multiple doors, stops the group and says, "I am not comfortable having all of this unexplored information between us and the exit." Donald, our ranger at the back of the pack, nods in agreement and says, "Yes, it is not wise we leave so much investigated." So we quickly about faced. We marched all the way back to the first southwest door, and my character has a plan. I'm going to try to go southwest. If every decision I get, again, like a maze, I want to try to stay going right. I want to take right turns. So I'm going to south, southwest, southwest, whatever. So my goal is to kind of go clockwise. And I'm hoping that we would find a way either back to the main entrance, something that would make a circular. We'd know that we had confirmed we've dealt with that whole area, but we don't know. We have no idea where this barrel maze is going to go. And it is indeed a maze. And my character, and at the end of every session, I write a journal. Jose is writing a journal, which is awesome. We share that. And Eloy gives us an XP bonus if we contribute maps or journals. So it's so cool. It gets us invested for also XP, right? I mean, you got to dangle that carrot for us old guys who have other things to do, right? So I enjoy all of this. So it isn't hard for me to sit down and write a page journal. It's just I love recapping. This is how I normally journal right here in the vlog, but it's cool to then test my chops writing. And I'm trying to write from Fex's point of view. Fex, Cyclopsian are they do not communicate in metaphors. They cannot comprehend metaphors. So everything's literal with the Cyclops. I also use a very formal I and Grimwolf, I and Donald. So I use a very formal form of grammar as I refer, instead of Grimwolf and I refer to I and these other folks, right? So I'm also trying to write from Fex's kind of mentality, which is fun. It's just fun. It's another part of the hobby, right? create, get to play, get to socialize, get to draw, get to journal, get to vlog, make videos. It's a hobby that allows you to embrace all of those things that you enjoy doing or want to do, right? So we take that southwest door, we come into a room that's for the most part empty, and immediately from the north corridor, we are assailed by a couple of shambling corpses. Quickly dispatched in one turn are both of these shambling corpses as they come after, I want to say Donald. I think they came after Donald at the back of our pack. And again, these going through these shambling corpses with ease, probably given us a little bit of false sense of security, but I don't know. I don't know if everybody feels the way I feel. So Fex is not so disturbed so far by these shambling corpses, especially when he sees his party waylay them in one or two hits, right? So Fex is feeling pretty good about this. Every door I come to is for the most part wooden, and every door is for the most part unlocked. One was ajar, and most of them need to be pushed open. So we have been able to traverse through these doors without much problem. I've not been able to hear at most of the doors, and I am not a thief. I am a fighter, but I am in the front row with Grimwolf. So we push on through another southern door, or it might be a southwest door, west door. I can't remember, but again, I'm trying to take us in right turns, right? Because it's a maze. I want to kind of keep us going in a certain pattern if we can. We push through into another larger room. This room has an actual exit, and it has a couple of doors in it. And we begin to search this room. The ranger begins to search for false walls on the western wall. I'm checking the southwest door in the furthest corner, and they're keeping eye upon the northeast exit because it's just an open passage. And sure enough, as I'm listening at the door and the ranger is checking for false walls, we are set upon by another shambling corpse, but this one speaks to us. It's dressed in a particular way. It wears jewelry of Nurgle, the god of death and decay, and it asks us politely to leave or become a servant of Nurgle, for which Grimwolf, the paladin, takes offense. Grimwolf suffers a couple of nasty wounds and is fortunate to survive this encounter. However, they waylay it, and I step in as well, and I think Dura gets off a crossbow bolt or two, and Donald gets involved with his sword. As Donald later tells us, when we stand around the corpses, there was no way I was going to die here today and not shed blood with my sword. So Donald lets us know he prefers his sword, right? Subtle way of Donald saying, I am a swordsman too, right? So it's fantastic. See, this is role play, folks, but it's subtle role play, right? Which is what we all have been doing for 40 years, right? Very, very cool. If you're paying attention, we're getting who Donald is through Jose's very succinct and applicable remarks, right? It's awesome. If you're paying attention, we're getting it, right? Okay. We then rest here, as a matter of fact, I think, and we bind Grimwolf's wounds, and we get to witness as he's forced to pray and lay hands upon his own wounds, and we get to see the miraculous powers of this devoted paladin. Again, Jorge plays this paladin brilliantly. His personality for this character and how he goes about this character is very cool. But what's cool about it is it's kind of a juxtaposition to what the paladin, but it isn't anti to the paladin. It's not how I would envision people playing the paladin, right? So his personality is what he projects to the world is I can't explain it, but it's very cool, right? So Jorge is very good at bolstering his noble hirelings as he gives them orders. So he'll give Felonius an order. Felonius, you noble and powerful man, open the door, right? So it is so cool how he uses his stature, and he doesn't give orders. He always bolsters them by talking about almost as if they're equals, right? But it's so cool. So again, these two guys have been doing this their whole lives, and I love the subtleness, but it's consistent and it's so fun. Okay, so Jorge is giving felonious orders and things and talking to the torchbearer, in this kind of language that is very cool. But Grimwolf's also gung-ho, right? Which is going to later get us in a situation. Well, not get us in a situation. It's going to prompt my character to flat kick a door open, which is fun. Okay. So we rest here. We witness the paladin and his abilities, which we've already seen his abilities to detect evil and get feelings. And now we've seen him with the power of prayer heal himself to some degree. He's not completely, but he's on his feet. And my character, you can imagine, with his big, soulful, light green eye blinking with a dour face, Grimwolf, are you okay to continue in the front ranks? And of course, Grimwolf shakes it off and says, absolutely, man. It's going to take more than a walking dead to stop me, right? So we go on to the next room, and as we do, and we get a couple of doors open, as we're listening at doors, we're moving through doors, we hear a clamor behind us, our Donald at the far right. Again, we put our ranger at the back of the pack, and we're going to have to reevaluate our because we have been waylaid from behind by zombies. And then we're set upon from behind by this encounter. And then again, later in the session, we are set upon from behind twice more. So we may have to reevaluate our marching order because the back of our pack basically becomes the front of our pack very often. So when you think you're moving forward, but we have been exposed at the back multiple times. And that's not to knock Donald, but Donald is, it's at the back of the pack so he can use his ranged weapon if he need be. So we might want to reevaluate exactly our marching order. But I don't know. Donald may like having to hold the back ranks. I don't know. I don't know yet, how Donald feels about constantly being approached from the backside. Okay. And we had an odd number, so he's literally the back guy. Okay. Which worked out, ultimately. And he sees light coming through the rooms. We left doors open. We did not close doors. So he sees light in the room we just left. And there's a little hallway between those two rooms. And he sees light and he hears guys. They're not being quiet. And they approach and he recognizes that they're men. They're men like us. They're garbed in chainmail and armors. They got weapons on their hips. They have torches and they are asking questions and they are spooked. Donald parlays with them and learns that they have been here and they are leaving. They cannot believe the horrors and the things they've seen. This place is a maze. It's crazy. We're getting out of here. So Donald parlays with them. We find out they're from Helix, that they're working for somebody named Osric, and they are headed back to Helix. This is not their cup of tea. And we bid them good farewell. And my character barks over the heads of my mates at 6-8. Be aware, we will be back at Helix in a triumphant celebration. We will buy you a drink, and they leave. And Grimwolf barks, they are not men of quality. Let them go, let them go. So again, the paladin and his somewhat sanctimonious, they should leave. They are not men of quality, right? So this, again, fantastic role play, which I love. And of course, Donald handles this conversation with a plum, right? Somebody said something in that exchange though that made them back up. I can't remember now if that was David's character, Dora. She said something to them, and he kind of stepped back with his torch. Oh, have you found any treasure? And made the leader back up a couple of steps, and hands went to weapons. As David again with this subtle have you been blessed with any treasure? Have you found any treasure? So very cool. So we move on, and again, it's simple, but this is role playing. This is what we grew up doing, and ironically, it is the subtle moments in which character reveals itself, right? We listen at that door, and I hear guttural, animal, wild, a mix of something like a wild animal, something that doesn't seem to jive. And I call Donald to the door and I say, Donald, listen, You're a man of what nature? You're a man of the wilderness. Does this not sound like a beast of the wilds?" And Donald listens, and he makes a successful tracking check, and he sees evidence of the footprints. And more importantly, he notes that the footprints are some kind of bizarre creature. They are bipedal, but they are not quite of bear or of wolf. Can't quite make out the size this creature may be. Clearly, there's a closed door here, so it's capable of going through doors, so it might be a bipedal man beast. And the guttural sounds are indeed that of something like a wild animal, but he honestly doesn't know. And he describes as Donald backs away from the door, suggesting that this is a little unnerving for our ranger in a subtle way, right? And Grimwolf says, "Doors, I hate doors, on through the door," or whatever, yells it out. And so I literally turn and kick the door open. I mean, if this is what we're going to do, let us do it. And I kick the door open, which is my character's quote. "This is what we are here to do." And so I kick the door open. And it's just another passage. And there's a door immediately adjacent to this. So the door we kick open, right beside it on the wall, is another door. And there's this kind of bizarre elbow. I would call it an elbow hallway. It's like a bizarre kind of hallway. And as we come into that, we open that door, and it enters into a room. And before we enter, Donald and Dur set up and try to get some kind of sight in this weird elbow of where they have their bows and their bolts trained, as we're expecting to run into this beast. And we enter into a room, a small room that is seems to have bundles that you almost have to navigate between to get to the other doors. But these bundles are covered in rags or tarps or canvas or whatever. And so my character prods one of them with the trident, and well, up from these covered mounds come these creatures, these crossbreeds between beasts, some with beaks and claws and talons, and some but also with scales, and they are some kind of mutant crossbred creatures, and there's quite a few of them. And we end up in an epic brawl in which Rolf, after fumbling his broadsword, falls to one of these creatures. My character is wounded by a fumble. I actually stab myself in the foot with my trident. However, in my journal, I tell a greater tale of heroics. So in my journal, I do not note I stabbed myself in the foot, right? I note that I had a great grievous wound from an evil beast. I'm not going to write in the journal that I stabbed myself in the foot. Of course not. Right? So anyway, we have this epic melee, and it is epic. And we finally get to see what Donald's made of as he draws this sword and waylays through Dura with her scimitar, waylaying. And so we see again what we are capable of, which is fun because, again, old school, the dice betray us very often, and we are hanging in there. We did lose a man at arms, Rolf. We suffered some wounds, but for the most part, we survived this encounter, and we see these beasts. My character, as I describe, as I pull my trident from my foot, because they kill him before I'm able to, so they actually waylay the last one as I pull my trident from my foot, and I bellow in the pain of drawing this from my foot. Well, Eloy, again, this is not just vain chitty-chatty. Eloy immediately makes a Wandering Monsters roll, and guess what? My bellow rings upon our head almost immediately. More of these walking corpses that move quickly, so they belie their condition. They're walking undead corpses, but they move very fast. And fortunately, again, 2 or 3 rounds in, we waylay, I think there were 4 or 5 of these. And here's what I love about how Eloy handled this. So again, theater of the mind, marching order, and good. Eloy was good about saying, we're back in order here, so everybody knew. But when we got into this situation, Eloy said, "This is chaos. We have a big enough room that everybody is engaged with somebody," which is 100% what we did as kids. It wasn't 1 on 6, and then everybody else was on the outside trying to. As we fought our way into the room, Eloy said, we have all the space we need, that everybody is going to be facing 1 or 2 of these things, whatever. And so it, again, completely engaging. It's only 20 by 20 room or a 30 by 30 room. There's plenty of room, and we can all move 30 feet per. So it just makes all complete sense. And we're in melee for the most part. No casters here. And the missile shots come early, and then they dive in melee. So they risk the biscuit with a couple of missile shots, but they have yet to do any friendly fire. Thank God, no friendly fire damage yet. But that's fine, right? We're it's it is the nature. It's just the nature of needing that attack and just risking the 20% chance you're going to be hit, right? Okay. And so we haven't had any friendly fire yet, but it will happen at some point probably. But anyway, we waylay these, fortunately, and then we take a rest. The ranger asked about my wounds, and I say I plopped down on one of these dead creatures that we killed earlier, and I put my foot in his lap, my big 22-foot. I'm a 6'8" Cyclops, and I tell him I put my 21-inch or 22-inch foot in his lap, and to doctor, and so he binds my wounds, um, and we're on our feet, and we're resting here at this point, and we begin to discuss, the future. What time is it? Should we head back? And we all assess that it's about 2 p.m. in the afternoon and that we are not done. We have a couple of more hours before we would have to begin to head back so we can get back to Helix or camp, at least here. We can't camp in the it would be suicide to camp inside the maze. But we've mapped, so we should be able to get out and easily. And then whether we camp here or we move on to Helix in the 4 or 5 hours it takes us to hike back to Helix before dark. It is summertime or springtime. We will see, but we agree to stop there. Curtains draw on another great session. So again, session 2. So think about this. Session 1, we started at 10 a.m. We hex crawled through a couple of mounds, got to the Barrowmaze, and roughly midday, we started into this maze, and this would be about 2. So 2 sessions, 4 hours of play, almost 4 hours of play. It's only 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Right? And that's okay, right? This is West March's style, drop in, drop out. Not a problem at all that Nagian and Tarlin are just left out of the conversation. So when Nagian or Tarlin return, they would have just been on the outskirts of the party, just didn't get involved in the main scrums, right? No problem. There's absolutely no problem in that. People make such a big deal. Well, how do we write Joe out? Joe ain't here. What are we going to do with Joe? Why don't you play Joe, or let the GM play Joe? Just let Joe sit on the outskirts. He's out of the scene. He's out. He's on the peripheral vision of the party. He's in the back. He's among the middle. He's not involved in the trap. He's not involved in the melee. He's not involved in the, right? And then Joe can just come back and slide back into his chair next week, and we're good to go, right? So groups that are playing something like Pathfinder that is so dependent upon all of their combatants being there, I can see it being a bit of a problem, and say where so many of the combat encounters are crafted by the DM, I can understand when somebody can't make it or doesn't show, it's a problem. Well, old school, there is no such thing as balance. There's no such thing as challenge ratings, and there's no such thing as crafting an encounter night. So get over it. So if a player can't be there, just leave his character on the very fringes of the party, or have them stay back in the first room and guard the exit, something like that. So then they can easily be written back in to the party brought back into the party the next week by just catching us up in the dungeon or something, right? Okay. So it works, and it works beautifully. It's helped too that we've had men-at-arms, right? Gowan and Rolf and Felonius gives us 3 actual men-at-arms plus a couple of torchbearers. So it's really made for an expedition, and it's given us those extra bodies in combat, things like that. And it has allowed us to explore, do the thing, but have a little help from characters. Again, this is how the game was designed as retainers. They're getting pieces of this profit. They are taking some of our XP, right? So they get a portion of our XP, and they're going to get a portion of our treasure. And that's the price we pay to have help, right? And the help is simple enough. Men-at-arms will engage in combat. And because we have waylaid everything so far, there's not been any morale checks, because we've really not had any We've not had any moment where we've lost 2 or 3 people or anything. So far, this first few rooms and corridors in 2 sessions, we've only gone through 6. I've numbered 6 things, and I think Jose has numbered 6 things. So we've actually numbered rooms or corridors where the events have happened, and I've got 6, he's got 6. So in 4 hours of play, we've got 6 numbered things. And so you can imagine how you could play something like Barrowmaze for years and years and years and years. Tecumseh, right? Which is a big campaign world. It's not just a dungeon crawl, but you can see how guys with the right material can play for 30 years. Groups can play together for 20, 30 years, 10 years, right? Fantastic. I want to thank Eloy for another brilliant session. David, perfect fit. And I, of course, David and I play together every week or every other week at least. And so I wanted to see if David was interested in trying out Barrowmaze and Dragonslayer, and he was able to find time, and it was awesome. I hope he can play with us again. And it's just a great group of guys, and we're playing a brilliant, brilliant OSR. And Barrowmaze is, so far, it is kind of what I envisioned, right? There's a bit of a theme here so far. Nurgle, is it Nurgle or Nurgle? I think it's Nurgle, the god of death and decay. And we've seen more shambling corpses or undead creatures so far, which again, we're in a barrow, so it makes some sense. And we've encountered one that could speak to us and told us to go home or become servants of Nurgle, and of course attempted to make Grimwolf one of those, as Grimwolf said, go screw yourself there, buddy, So great. So really the reflections are on just that, the West Marches style, drop in, drop out play. The adherence to the rules has been fantastic. We've seen Wandering Monsters. My character has made noise. We've kicked a door in. We have yet to come to a locked door that we've had to waylay with a sledgehammer or pick. We've had an encounter with actual adventurers that was a parlay, which is great. And we are collecting some treasure. I mean, if we get out of here for the first day and march back to Helix by, say, the next day or late in the evening of this first day, we will have made 400 or 500 gold pieces, enough to share, enough to carouse, and enough to pay off our minions, so to speak, right? So far, the first 2 sessions, I would think some of our third session will involve going back to Helix and re-equipping, maybe, who knows what'll happen in the third, because again, we're trying to get back to Helix before nightfall. So this is all literally in the first day so far. So outstanding. Thank you everyone for watching, and love your hobby, enjoy what you do what you love, and love what you do. All right, bye.